one of them I got through CJ because I saw in the paper that Social Distortion was playing. I was like, we know guys in that band. So I emailed CJ, said, can you tell Johnny to get me on the list, Johnny or Dave? Johnny got me on the list, +1, get the promoter in there, and I painted the show. It was unbelievable. That was one of the funnest, and I almost didn't make it. I got on the wrong train. I went to this fucking town. I was there for hours. Then I got back on a train, went back, caught the next train. It was a mess. But yeah, we got there. I saw like probably 3/4 of their set, painted to it. But so there was things like that, or really just that one thing like that. But yeah, I was in the bill for a bunch of things. I got some guarantees. It was like I don't know, maybe $500 I made, $600 I made off of like getting paid to perform, and then the other money I made off of selling paintings was, I mean, it could have been a lot more if I'd have sold for less. I could have sold everything I had. But at the end of the day, I wanted to walk away with the paintings that I made in Europe and sell them for more in America. And hold on to them, too. Then this, I could have got 50 or 60 euros for everything I had. Would have made twice the money I made in Europe. But at the end of the day, you spend money fast. But the paintings that you make over there, painting I brought to 3,000, 4,000 miles crisscrossing around Europe and painted every night. Like, the thing's fucking worth way more than 30 euros, I could have been like, yeah, I got 100 euros tonight, and just give it all to the train company and come back flat broke to fucking France, So even if I'd have sold all those, I'd still be broke right now, but I wouldn't have any of them. So now I have them, and they're really good. I want to put them in the show in next January.
Tell me about the Riccabellis.
The Riccabellis, they're a great band. I played with them the first show. That was the first show I'd ever did in Europe. That was their 100th show. So they played a real long set. It was like probably an hour and a half. And I got there, I'd only slept 2 hours the night before because we got there at 7 in the morning. And we checked in the hotel for a few hours and then went there. So I was glad there was only one band. Because I was fucking tired as shit almost before it was over. But I was super pumped. I went crazy. The room was packed. There was no room in there. I just was like them, no stage, and then me. I was in between the two brothers, in between two microphones. And then there's people outside. Like, there was a big glass window. So a bunch of people were like looking in the window. I was like, that dude who sang, Chris Polecat Milani, he's in this band Tough that's really big in Italy. They're sick. That's a sick punk band. We don't really have bands like that in America.
Paint is like decades ago, like for the most part, like most of the pictures are taken like decades ago. It's like bands from, mostly like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s somewhat, but less so like.
And that's since you've known me. I used to paint a lot of current stuff in 06, 07, 05. I painted a lot of like just happening stuff.
Right.
And it was good. I sold it. I mean, but in the end, it's they're trying to like master a formula that's already been mastered. You know what I mean? And in that way, I'm looking to the golden age of things. And more in that way. When it was a lot of just, these guys were going new directions. They were absolutely the first person to go in their directions because there was so much open ground left uncovered, in rock and roll. We've covered all that shit, and these guys were the people that really broke open these big segments of it, like Lou Reed or Iggy, if I'm going to paint something from the 60s, Rocky Erickson, or 70s stuff, Johnny Thunders, the Ramones, a lot of that stuff. They broke open huge new chunks, and that's what I'm doing with my art. You know what I mean? I'm breaking open some huge new pieces of ground for painting and bringing it to some places it's never been. And so I'm inspired by rock and roll people that did that.
And it's almost like a tribute to that, like breaking new ground with the that. But like, how do you think like modern like How do you think like it differs, like those like that old like
Oh, well, the
thought
whole
because
pace of life was different in the time that those people were making that art.
Right.
Emotions were more visible and on the surface. Communication was better between individuals. It was less about I and more about like us. So the songs are written from that perspective. And then it's also the actual people who were writing those songs back then are very different than most of the people writing songs today. You know what I mean? Those people come about it from a more of a literate perspective today or academic perspective, like they've trained in this or they know this and now they're doing it. These other people are just like, they were really a farmer or a soldier or a fucking homeless kid or whatever. And then they were also writing songs. You know what I mean? They weren't professionally trained this or that, you know what I mean? In that way, their emotions and all that shit are much rawer on the surface, the recording or the whatever it is, the art that they were doing, because it's not something that's processed through like a bunch of rules and this and that. They're like really these misfits of society, and that they're also a writer. A total misfit who is also Jack Kerouac, was also fucking on and on and on. Dee Dee.
Talk about Dee Dee.
well
Because
compared to
Rickabellis have a song,
Well,
I Want to Live Like Dee
hold
Dee
on,
Ramone,
hold
while
on,
you're
hold on.
painting a picture about Dee Dee.
hold on, fucking compared to today where people are people have all that to look back to, right? Like, and they're basing it off of like the people who broke the ground.
Yeah.
So
And
like,
it's also with a lot of artists, and when I think of artists, I mean like I think about a lot of old school artists, that the people that have these amazing things that have held them back from doing what they want to do, and then they jumped into doing what they want to do with full abandon, instead of someone that's always had opportunities to do what they want to do, and they're just going in one direction based on their own intuition of what to do, you know what I mean? But like when you're at work all day and you want to go home and play, you really want to play, right? You know what I mean? It's the same kind of shit with all the shit jobs I've had to work in my life and all the different bad situations I've had to fight my way out of, because I really wanted to paint. I really want to do this, you know, and I've always consistently made time for it, and that's something I'm proud of. But the real thing about it is I've had to fight to get that time, and I've had to fight to remain an artist all these years and not be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna get that good job and just, or marry this girl or this other shit I could have done at different points in my past, you know. Well, that's it. After time, you realize it's a real commitment. You know, it's one thing to do it for X number of years, but once you start to get old and you've been doing it your whole life, then you're like, wow, I'm really committed to this now. You know? I love it. I really wouldn't do anything else. No, I've always done something like this in my life since I was a kid, but yeah, it is a real commitment.
So, tell us about Dee Dee. You know, Rickabelli just playing a song about Dee Dee, and you were painting a picture about Dee Dee. Dee Dee's got to be pretty important. You painted a lot of pictures.
Oh, he's
of Dee Dee.
very important to me. The whole way I got started in this thing was through talking to Dee Dee's ex-wife Vera Ramon on Facebook, and she liked my work. I can't remember, this was years ago. We were talking back and forth about stuff, and I went and I told her that I wanted to make a painting of Dee Dee for her at CJ's show. So I went and I made this painting, and I sold the other two, or gave them to CJ. That's when I met him, and I met Paul. And then I mailed the one to her, and then she mailed me, that was like our birthdays, I think she's was right before mine, like a couple weeks before mine maybe. So I mailed her the painting, and she got it for her birthday, and then she mailed me this harmonica of Dee Dee's, and this pick from the guitar that he wrote the songs on, his acoustic guitar. It's like some worn out bass pick. It's real great. It's just pick that he used to write the Ramon songs on. Put it downstairs. And then she called me up on my birthday and talked to me. And we talked for a little bit. And I said, you know, she's like, why don't you have an art show? Why are you doing this and that? You know? I told her I'm still developing this thing, but I just painted with CJ, and I would love to tour with him, and I think that I could really, because that's what I do, tour with bands and paint with bands, it would really work. And she goes, he's the coolest one out of all of them. I think it could work. You know what I mean? He's into some like out there ideas. I was like, okay. So that's the reason why I got all that shit going. Really, she gave me the confidence to go for it. So I owe the guy a lot, but that's just my story and how I never met him, but he's an artist I think a lot about. I love his books, both his books I've read. There's 3 of his books, and one of them is the book I'm writing now, is a lot based on that, and On the Road, of course, my other favorite book, Jack Kerouac, many Jack Kerouac books. I guess some ideas I get from that, and I don't think the world fully realizes what a great artist he was, you know what I mean? Like many great artists, but it's been not that long since he left us, so a lot of times these things take a long time to really percolate. But any given day, there's tens of thousands of bands that know his songs in the world. It's a huge cult following. I don't know what else you'd call it, I mean, because he's not a, like,